Hey, everybody. I am here with a very, very special guest to record Lady Bam podcast episode number 5. Before I say the name, I'm just going to give you a few hints who might be here today. So, you may know this person from the 2011 film Pizza Man, or you may have seen him playing a killer for hire in Walker, Texas Ranger, or as the recurring role of Aldo Burrows on the Fox series Prison Break, or you may have seen him on Criminal Minds, or you may have seen him on Charmed, or you may have seen him as head coach Mike George in ESPN's drama series Playmakers, or you may have seen him in 1991 if you're old enough as Joey Buttafuoco in the Amy Fisher story. I could go on and on. I now am pretty sure that you know who's sitting with me, unless you need me to mention NBC's Crime Story. If you don't need me to mention that, then you do know that what I'm coming to next is from 2005 to 2012, The Closer, and then 2012 to 2018, our favorite show, Major Crimes. Yes, the gentleman sitting next to me today, he actually has a couple of names. He was actually born Anthony John Serrero, and then he became Anthony Denison. And then he became Anthony John Denison, and now he is our beloved. Ladies and gentlemen, say hello, although you can't because you're not here and this isn't live, but say hello anyway to your favorite, Tony Denison. Hi, Tony.
Thank you, Mary. That was quite an introduction. Thank you very much.
It was fun to sort of think about your career that way.
Yes, and I don't even know. I don't know if they really get a chance to see me in Pizza Man because I don't think it got released.
Well,
No fault of mine. I wasn't the lead, so.
well, you know they'll go looking for it now.
Yeah.
So
right.
everybody look for.
I'd rather they
Man,
look
Lumberjack
for Trattoria.
Florida. Trattoria. What was that?
That was a movie I did where I played a chef of a restaurant in San Francisco. I'd rather they go look for that. That could use the people looking for it or what do they call liking it or whatever, downloading it.
Trattoria.
Trattoria.
When did you make it, do you know?
Oh my God! I think I made it. I was doing the closer when I did it, so it had to be like 2007.
2007.
Eight?
Let's see.
I had a ball doing that.
I don't see it in here, but that doesn't mean
Yeah.
it wasn't 2007. So you had all these names. So why'd you change to Tony Denison?
Well,
Why
Denison
did you
is
land on that?
well, Denison is because the woman named Jan Denison, her and her husband and her family, her whole family. I went to live with them when my marriage broke up, and I was, well, I should say I was involved in a traveling theater company, a professional company, of which she was the artistic director. And I had just taken some acting classes after I graduated from college as a lark, just because I was just curious. And so I had auditioned for the touring company, and I was selling life insurance at the time, so I was available evenings.
Right.
I mean, a daytime to do the touring with them. And at a certain point in time, she said to me, she goes, I was with them about 2 years, and she said, you really ought to go to New York. She said, you really ought to give it a shot. She goes, because you're going to really regret it years down the road. You better to go down there and try it. And if it doesn't work, you can always sell life insurance again, or you can. I worked my way through college I had my own construction company. She goes, you can go back to doing construction work on your own or whatever. And I was a newspaper editor, so she goes, there's a lot of things you did that you could go back to do, but this is so unique. So I did. So when my marriage had ended, I was living with her and her family, and I moved to New York City, and I was producing
So your marriage had already ended.
Marriage
And that's when she said to you,
yeah.
now or never.
What are you going to
Yeah.
do? And so I got to New York, and I was doing this play, a revival of Indian Wants the Bronx, which had been done previously by Al Pacino, and I was having a ball doing it. And immersing myself completely in the theater scene in New York, off Broadway and off Broadway.
What years was this? Do you remember?
This would be, I remember it like it was yesterday. It'd be 1977 to 1980.
I can't believe that we didn't meet then.
I know.
It's crazy, but go ahead.
Anyway,
Yeah.
so I had done that, and I was working at this theater company. I became like I was chief cook and bottle washer at the theater. I was running the theater. I was directing plays. I was acting in
Where is
plays.
this?
The 13th Street Theater
Oh,
on 13th Street between 5th and 6th.
13th Street Playhouse?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So I was there for quite a few years, like 3-4 years. And then I left there, and I was, again, a lot of dejection, a lot of rejection, all that stuff. And I started working at different jobs to make money, to pursue acting. And I got a little messed up with drugs. And then when I came to, 3 years later, Jan Denison, again, was very instrumental in getting me on the road again, her and her husband. So out of respect to them, I took their last name. Because I never thought I was going to get back into acting. I mean, I was 34 years old. I thought, I'm over the hill already at 34, but I was determined, and I put my nose to the grindstone, as they say, and I just, went at it like with an intensity that, I summoned up from I don't know where, and I caught a break.
Now, let me ask you a question. At what point during that process did you get an agent who actually helped you?
Well, I'd had a lot of agents, in New York, which you can't do out here, I'm told. You could freelance. You could work with several different agents.
Indeed.
So I was working with a lot of different agents in New York. And one of the ways I got so many agents was, the thing was, send them your picture and resume. Well, I remember I went to an agency one day for some reason. I had somebody gave me an entree, and I go in there, and I saw this stack of, the 8x10 manila envelopes. And I said, what are those? And they said, that's all the submissions of actors. And I'm realizing, and I said, they can't go through all of those. I mean, it was literally like maybe about a foot high or a foot and a half high of manila envelopes. So I thought, I'm going to go to every single agency in Manhattan. And instead of like sending my photo to every single one of them, I'm going to visit every office and just slip it under the door. So when they go to pick it up to either look at it and throw it away, at least they can look at it. And as a result, I had like about 30 different agents call me. Because before the other four, the sending it in the mail, maybe if you got like 11 agents that would call you, and but I had like 30 or 35 agents call me because they had to bend down and pick up the friggin' picture.
And it was right there.
It was right there. They didn't have to
envelope.
open it. They could pick it up and throw it in the trash or go, oh, who's this guy? And so that's what happened. So I had like 30, 35 agents. And so I wound up freelancing with about 4 or 5 different agents as a result of it. And but when I got my big break, which was Crime Story that you mentioned before, I really didn't have, I had this one agent I was working with sort of most of the time, but he never could get me in this audition for this. But my acting coach, Julie Bavasso, God rest her soul, she told me that Bonnie Timmerman was looking for Italian types for a new series by Michael Mann. And Michael Mann, like Miami Vice, was like, oh my God. And so Julie said, I know just the guy for you. And so I went in the next day after Julie told me to call her up, and I went in, I met Bonnie for the first time, and it was like, I didn't know anything about the character other than he was 32 years old and he was like an up-and-coming mob guy. And so I dressed like, with a slick suit on, and slicked my hair back. I still have the audition tape, by the way, of that.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyway, so she took his Polaroid of me. She said, because they're really busy. Unbeknownst to me, Michael had been scouring the planet to find this guy.
Certainly the boroughs.
Yeah, well, I mean, they had like 250 people audition for this role, I found out. But anyways, she said, look, we're going to take a picture of you. If Bonnie can see you, she'll see you based on the Polaroid right now. Otherwise, we'll ask you to come back another day. And I said, okay. Took the picture. They said, come on in. So I went in, and I'm sitting there looking at the sides. And I'm at the corner of my eye, I can see into the office where Bonnie is sitting. Bonnie's like going like this. Like,
who's that guy? Yeah.
Yeah, who is this guy? So I went in, I had like 10 minutes to look at the lines, but because I had been in acting class, you know, it's like working out at the gym, you know, or
you're right.
going to the batting cage, you know, before the game, you take batting practice and your swing is there. And I went in and I made choices right away. And I was familiar, I didn't have to look at the lines because I just made quick choices and quick study. And I did the scene, and then she talked to me for like about another half hour after the audition. And she said, well, you know, let you know, and I said, okay. And I thought, wow, you know,
That's cool.
you know, I didn't know about the show. I didn't know anything about the show. It was just a script. I didn't know, besides, it wasn't a script. So then the next day, late the next day, I get a call saying they're going to fly me to Los Angeles to meet with the studio, with the network, to read for this role. And I'm like, and I thought it was only a guest star. And I said, you got to read for guest stars too? I said, my God, how strict they must be getting out there.
Yeah.
So the next morning, the morning after that, Friday morning, I get picked up by a limo. I bring my same suit in a travel bag. So I change at the airport when I get to LA. And I'd never been to LA before. So I'm reading the script on the way out there, and I realize, oh my God, it's the lead. I mean, it's Dennis Farina and me, and Stephen Lang. We're the three leads. And I'm like, oh my God.
Did it make you nervous?
Well, it made me a little nervous.
Yeah.
But I was so tired because I hadn't slept the night before, knowing I'm flying. I mean, and I'd worked the day before on a commercial. So I literally had like maybe 4 hours of sleep over the course of like 48 hours. So when I got to Los Angeles and I met Michael Mann for the first time, he had me read a couple of the, it was 4 scenes I had to audition. So he had me read a couple of lines with him, and then next thing you know, he says to me, okay, great, we're going to meet with the network at 4 o'clock today. And I said, okay. He says, want to do anything right now? You got plenty of time. And I said, I got to sleep, man. I just got to sleep. I said, I'm so tired. So he said, all right. So they took me back to his office at Universal. Teresa, his gal Friday, you know, whatever, executive assistant, she said, go in Michael's office, lay down on the couch. So I'm laying on the, you know, and I can't sleep. Because I'm thinking,
now you're in his
I'm
office.
thinking, this
I'm
is
in
insane.
Michael Mann's office.
I said, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to read for this part, and I can't really concentrate because I'm so tired. So she comes in, she goes, I got good news and bad news for you. And I said, what's the good news? She goes, well, the good news is you don't have to audition today. And I said, really, why not? He said, well, Michael asked him to see you on Saturday morning. So we're going to put you up at the Sheraton Universal. And, you know, and
What day of the week was this?
This was a Friday.
Oh, okay.
So you can sleep tonight in the hotel. But I says, what's the bad news? She goes, the bad news is, you know, you got to go through it tomorrow. I go, no, this is great news and fantastic news.
Yeah, there's no good bad.
There's no bad here.
Better and better.
So I spent the night in Sheraton Universal. And every time I drive by the Sheraton Universal on the freeway, to this day, I look at it and I remember like that feeling of what it was like.
Plus the Sheraton Universal, the first time in LA ever, and you're looking out over the valley and the mountains. And
I'm like, where am I? This is like, you know, and
a New Yorker.
Yeah, and talked to a friend on the phone, and we ran the lines together on the phone. A good buddy of mine at the time, and he said, "You sound all right." Next morning, a friend of mine, who's still my friend, and we may produce some projects together. A guy named David Burke. It was his first big break. He came to the hotel, picked me up, and said, listen, I'm taking you over to the audition. He said, anything I can do, because I'm going to be reading with you. It's you and somebody else. And I said, well, you know what? I said, every time I go on auditions, I said, for people who aren't actors, I said, the only thing I would hope they would do is just read with enthusiasm. You know, not just do monotone, but just read with enthusiasm.
For sure.
And he goes, I can do that. And that was it. You know, he
Now
wrote
he's
half
one of
the
your
script.
best friends.
He's one of my best friends. I've known him. David and I have been friends for 31 years.
David.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was it. I went in that afternoon, that morning or
How many
late
people
morning.
were in the room? Do you remember?
Well, that was the big surprise for me. You mind me telling this story?
Oh yeah, we're really minded.
All right. No, I didn't know if you wanted to get on to something else.
fantastic.
Anyway, so I'm sitting outside, and the guy in front of me, he went first. They said, well, listen, we're going to have him go in first. He said, and you know, you'll go second, because then when it's over, you know, David can take you back to the Sheraton, and the limousine will pick you up and take you to the airport. And I was like, all right. So he goes in. We're in, Joel Thurm. You remember that name,
Yeah,
Joel Thurm?
I do.
We're in Joel Thurm's office. And so I remember he goes in, he comes out. I said, hey, good, all the best, break a leg. He leaves. So then they come out to get me, and they bring me in the room, and there's like 25 people in this room.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I didn't know where they all came from. I guess they came in from the other office, which adjoins
They have
it.
a secret entrance.
Yeah, so I came in, I said, oh, damn, man, I said, where'd you all come from? And they laughed, and I said, okay, and so Michael Mann was sitting down front, literally on like a, what do they call it, a hassock or whatever.
Yeah.
He's sitting down front, and they were all like sort of behind him in a semicircle. And there's David off to the left of Michael.
And they're all in suits.
No.
No.
See, the thing that was great, it was Saturday.
Oh, that's right. So they were all in golf.
In fact, Brandon Tartikoff,
Yeah.
who was in like sweatpants and like a baseball kind of shirt, he was on his way to go play baseball at this game that he's been playing it for years, which I eventually joined. And then Brandon and I became very close friends because of it. So anyway, so I go in, so there's no suits. They're all in
tracksuits.
a couple of guys had sports jackets on, but that was it. So I go in and and I start the audition, and then Michael goes with his Chicago accent. He goes, "Yeah, wait a minute." He goes, "Go back." He goes, and let's go back and do that other scene. He says, "That one I know gets you cranked up." And I'm thinking, this doesn't happen in an audition. They tell you to stop and go back and do another scene so you can get cranked up for the other. So I did. We did the other scene. Then we did the other 3 scenes. And after each scene, he's down front. They can't see him. He's going. I'm thinking, this is Michael Mann giving me thumbs up, like a quiet thumbs up. I'm thinking. So I do the scene. I'm done. And they go, all right, you got to go sit outside and wait. So I have to sit outside and wait. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, I could have done this differently. Could have done, all actors lament.
Yeah.
And next thing I know, the door opens, and out comes Michael, Brandon Tartikoff, there's David, and Larry Little, and all these other guys come out, and they start walking towards me, and I'm sitting in this chair, and I'm so
You're starting to deflate.
I'm really...
Because all that adrenaline,
yeah.
Right? Oh my God.
Michael Mann says to me, he says, you got it, you're it, you're Luca. Well, the character then was called Nick Spano, and then he changed it to Ray Luca. But he says, you're it, you're Spano. And I was like, what? He goes, yeah, congratulations. So I go to stand up, and my legs were like bowing. Wow. I mean, I had to sit back down. And then I got up again. I go, I got it? You mean that's it? I'm like, I got it? And they go, yeah, you got it, you're it. You're heading to Chicago. Michael says, get him to the thing. We're going to send him to Chicago right now. And I'm like right now?
Like they didn't call your agent first or something?
No, they'd already done that. They'd already done the negotiation, the deal negotiation.
Oh, yeah, because you were, yep.
But I was like, oh my God, and then David took me back to the Sheridan, and I was just like over the moon. Amazing. Teresa had said to Michael, he said, listen, I think let him go back to New York tonight, and then he can go to Chicago tomorrow afternoon, Sunday. He doesn't have to be there tonight. Nobody's doing anything. And so I was like, great, because I wanted to go home and
you need to go home,
take a shower and
and to call your friends and say, my life's about to change.
Yeah, my life changed, and it was.
How long were you in Chicago?
Oh, I was in Chicago for a year and a half.
And then.
Then we moved to Vegas for the last 3/4 of a year, and then that was it. And then the show got canceled.
And then you moved to LA.
I moved to LA. When we moved to we went to Chicago. We were there for about 9 months. That's right, and then we moved to Vegas.
So you went to LA in between.
And then I went to LA in between. And then second year, I was commuting once in a while from Los Angeles to Vegas, or staying in Vegas the whole time.
And when did you decide and why to move to LA? It was just was it the whole experience was so exciting?
I'd always wanted to move to LA just because of the weather, since I was a kid.
Okay.
I hate the cold.
But
I don't know how to ski. I even hate throwing snowballs, so.
Yeah. Now you were born in Harlem?
Harlem,
is that correct?
Well, I was born in Madison Avenue Hospital, which is called Gotham City Hospital at the time. So my birth certificate says Gotham City.
That's hilarious.
Huh? But it was...
you and Batman or something.
Yeah, you and me and Batman, right. And but that hospital is no longer, but it's 86th Street in Madison Avenue.
Wow.
And...
where in Harlem?
107th Street and 3rd Avenue.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how long did you live there?
About 7, 8 years, and then we moved to Queens.
Right.
Because they tore the buildings down to build the projects.
Right. And where in Queens?
Hollis, Queens,
Oh.
which was near Jamaica.
Right.
And lived there for about another 8 years, nine years until high school. And then moved out to Hicksville, out on the island.
Yeah.
And I graduated high school there, finished high school there, and then
We went to New Paltz.
when I went to college in New
We went
Paltz.
to New Paltz while I was at Fredonia.
Oh, right, that's it.
You may not know this, fans, but Tony and I were both at SUNY New York's during the same year's.
I loved Fredonia because of the Marx Brothers. Hail
Oh,
Fredonia.
yeah. Well, also Fredonia, the name Fredonia was one of the names that they were considering the United States of America. So they were considering naming this country Fredonia. There's about 15 Fredonias all over the U.S.
Oh, that's right.
And that's where the Marx Brothers got the hail.
Yeah, Hail Fredonia, yeah.
Oh no, those were great times. New York State University of New York during the 70s, nothing like it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it was. New Paltz had the unfortunate nickname of being called the Berkeley of the East, and not because of its curriculum, because of all the drugs that were available.
Yeah. Well, Fredonia was pretty drug-ridden as well because it was right over the border of Pennsylvania. So all the dealers would drive up from Mexico and then through the U.S. Southwest.
Oh yeah, they had those routes, those different drug wheel routes.
Into New York, and they would all stop in Fredonia. So it was quite a vibrant culture.
Yeah.
So Tony, let me ask you a question. When you talk about this story, it sounds like the joy and the excitement and the adrenaline of all of those special Hollywood stories and the kind of magic of all of that. And you caught a break. You literally caught a big break. Did that stay with you as a way of confidence, or did that chase you? Like, oh, I caught that break. I don't know what's going to happen now.
That's a good question. I don't think I've ever been asked that question. I think it stayed with me in terms of confidence.
Good.
And only because, like I said, when I had messed up, and when I got back into it, I remember I'm not a religious person at all, but I remember thinking, somehow, because at the time I thought myself to be like an atheist or an agnostic, but I remember sort of praying of some kind of prayer, and I just thought, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this, and I got back, and I mean, my life was like really crap. I mean, I was doing extra work sometimes. I was doing, I would do under fives on soap operas, whatever it took. I was working at toy fairs. I was, I remember when I was in college, I drove a cab and I got held up and stabbed. And so when I was now trying to find work to do, I said, I'm going to do everything except, wait tables. 10 bar or drive a cab, because I don't want to get. So I did everything else.
You'll die in both instances, right?
I did everything else imaginable.
Yeah.
And then in the course, like I said, in the course of the stuff that I was doing, I was just constantly committed to the acting. In fact, the day that I got this whole opportunity broke for me was I had been working on a soap opera that day. My ex and I were living in Brooklyn, and what happened was I worked on a soap opera that day, and it was like a really, really super early call. And when I got back to meeting her at this little theater space that this buddy of mine who I was on the phone with running lines, he and his wife were running. We met there. We were all going to take the train back to Brooklyn, and it was the night of class. I think it was a Tuesday. It was Wednesday. It was a Tuesday night, and so I thought, no. I said to my wife, I said, well, my soon-to-be second wife, I said, I'm going to go. I said, I got to go to class. I can't not. Even though I was so physically exhausted, and it wasn't scene night. It was just improv night. So if I had not gone, I wouldn't have,
nothing would have happened.
Nobody's scene wouldn't. But I thought, no, I got to go. I can't. So I said, look, you guys all go on to Brooklyn. I said, I'm going to go to class, and I'll just come home after class. And when I walked in the door, Julie Bavasso said, why didn't you call Bonnie Timmerman? That was the first thing she said to me when I walked in the door. I said, what are you talking about? She goes, last week I gave you Bonnie's number. And, you know, and God rest her soul, she did not give me Bonnie's number, because you don't forget that you have Bonnie Timmerman's number.
No, not
But
back
I
then,
did,
particularly. Oh my God.
but Julie is a tempest in a teapot. You know, I mean, anybody who knows Julie Bavasso knows her reputation. And, you know, she's half Albanian and half Sicilian. So there tells you about her temperament. Anyway, so she says to me, she goes, well, well, I'm going to give it to you again, and you call her tomorrow. And if I had not gone to class that night, that would have never happened, and the character would have been cast that Friday.
So
I wouldn't have gotten the role.
So maybe part of what you're saying, or part of what I'm hearing, is that you experienced that break as longevity and confidence because you knew that you drove yourself to that moment by going to class.
You make your breaks.
You make your breaks.
You make your breaks.
Have you always felt that way?
I felt that way I always use the analogy of baseball. I've done that with you a couple of times on the set.
I know.
But I mean, at the end
Even
of the
though you know I love football.
You love
still
football.
does it to me. I don't watch baseball. He doesn't watch football, but I
But
get
at the
it.
end of the day, you get to the place where all people ask for when you're up at bat is to give as good a cut at the ball as you can.
Right.
Okay? If it goes over the fence, or if it falls in for a double and a couple of runs scores, whatever, fine. But if it gets caught and the guy has to run to the warning, but you just want to know that you smacked it as hard as you could. Right. There are elements beyond that sometimes play into the role of the hit that it doesn't go in for. I mean, into the role of swinging at the bat that makes it fall in for a hit. Sometimes we think like the wind stops the ball, whatever happens. But as long as you walk away from the place saying, you know what, I swung as hard as I could at that ball.
Yeah.
You know, given the pitch, whatever it is. And that's the way I've tried to live my life ever since. I don't take anything for granted. And I don't mind auditioning. People say, you know, don't they give you offers now? And I say, well, sometimes I get an offer, but I don't mind auditioning because I know firsthand if I audition and I get the role, then I know they really wanted me.
That's right.
You know,
It's a
it's not.
different feeling.
I'm not like sixth on the list of like all this.
Yeah, yeah,
There's
they
been
couldn't
5
do
prior
this,
no's, and
yeah.
then they come to you. Oh
Yeah.
my God, you're just who we want. You know.
Yeah.
You know
You
what
can
I'm
always
talking
tell.
about. You know what I'm
You
talking
can always
about.
tell if
Right.
you were on a list
Right.
because
Right.
they're shooting in 2 weeks, and you're
Right.
like, how many months and how many people
Yeah.
did they go through first?
Right. Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly. So when you do audition, and I always say you're never in competition with anybody else. You just go there to try to serve the material.
Yeah.
You just go try to do the best you can, you know, and have as much fun as you can. Because the job is the audition.
Yeah.
It's not the job. It's the audition is the job.
You know, I had a teacher, his name was Ernie Martin, and I remember him once explaining in class, because somebody had a big audition and they were all completely wrecked about it, and he said, look, everybody stop. Your job at an audition is to solve their problem for them. You are a problem
Well
solver.
put.
And it was huge for me, because I had a perfectionist in me, and she used to get in my way, big time. And that came from like synchronized swimming and water ballet and winner. I had a winner in me that hated to lose. And when I became a problem solver in my mind, it was a lot more direct and a lot more gracious. And I was kind of curious about them, those big bad people who may or may not give you a role. Like, what I'm wondering, here, let me try and solve this. And that was a big relief for me. So it's important, like the acting teachers you've had, like Julie, obviously.
Julie, I,
Changed your life.
for a short while, he directed me in a play. I had Bill Hickey. Remember Bill Hickey?
Yeah.
Well, you know, he was Bill Hickey. Well, he was great. I had Bill Hickey. I had Ken McMillan for a little bit. But Julie was the one who had the most impact on me.
Right.
She gave me, I guess I could call my technique. I suppose I don't know
Right.
what other word to use.
Yeah.
Though it sounds so formal, but she helped me develop
That's
whatever
great.
whatever my technique is.
Right.
And so I owe so much to her. And again, like I was saying before, if anybody who knows Julie and worked with her, they know, like, we're talking about a woman who two-fisted drinker, smoked, had a lung removed, and she still smoked.
And she still taught, and
yeah.
she still drank.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she still, but I remember when I got the role, and I was in Joel Thurm's office. There was some time to kill before I had to go back to the hotel, and so I made a couple of phone calls, and I said, he said, what do you want to do? I said, I really literally couldn't talk. I made the hand gesture for a phone, like a rotary phone. I mean, I was that like
Stunned.
stunned, because my whole life changed,
Right.
in in an instant. And I remember I said, so I got on the phone, I called Julie up, and she goes, oh, where, with her voice, she goes, what are you doing? What's going on? And I said, Julie, you're not going to believe this. I got the role. I got it. They she goes, and she started crying. For Julie Bavasso to cry, and I'm telling you, like I said, if any actor who's ever worked with her in New York who knows her knows Julie cried.
Yeah.
And it wasn't as a character.
Yeah. That's wonderful, Tony.
Yeah.
So, what do you want to do next, do you think?
Well, all actors, a lot of actors say they want to direct. I don't really have a desire to direct. I directed some theater in New York, and it was like, okay, it didn't light my fire,
Yep.
The way it does when I perform. But I do like producing. Mm-hmm. I do like putting things together. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know if I'm necessarily what you would call a problem solver, though people have said that I am. But I'm a kind of person who can get people, as in terms of what a producer does for a movie,
Yeah.
I can do that, and that's what I'd really like to do. So I'm in the process right now on a couple of different avenues of producing projects.
Right.
And when any or all of them hit, I'll be happy to produce. And only of the four things that I'm involved in right now, there's only one really that there's an acting role for me in.
Right.
It doesn't matter to me that I'm acting in it or not.
Right.
I really want to be producing. I want to get this thing together and see this thing come to life.
Yeah.
I've written a couple of things, stuff that I've written that may come to fruition is something I wrote with some friends.
Yeah.
And so I'd like to see that happen as the writer. Like, oh my God, it'd be great to see this all come to life.
And
But-
what about retirement? Do you ever think about that?
Oh,
Because a lot of actors don't even ever consider it. It's like, yeah, but we're in semi-retirement our whole career because we don't
Oh, yeah.
work like,
That's
8 hours a day for 30 years with only weekends off. You know what I'm saying? So,
Well, I used to jokingly say I have plenty of time to relax when I'm dead. So I don't.
it doesn't mean anything.
Doesn't mean anything to me.
to you.
Doesn't mean anything to me. I know I'm not a kid anymore, but I tell you, with the exception of some things I went through, like in the past 2 years, which are gone now, I still have the energy and the enthusiasm and the hope and the dreams of like when I was like 30 years old, 25 years old.
But it has changed a little because you're happy to put your energy, like the idea of putting people together on a project you're not acting in would not have been thinkable to you when you were 30 or 40.
No, when I was 30.
Oh my God, no, you'd have to be at the center. Why do all that work if it's not you, right?
Right. Yes, that's true. It's a good
That's
point.
right, you changed,
That's a good
right?
point. That's a very good point.
And what about LA?
Well, he's like somebody once said to me, Larry Estes,
Yeah.
who's the guy who put together a whole bunch of movies for RCA Columbia Home Video. He did Sex, Lies, and Videotape.
Okay.
He helped make that happen. Anyway, he used to say, well, I used to be plastic, now I'm elastic.
Yeah,
So-
that's good. Now, what about LA? What about living in LA? Are you still...
This is the closest thing to Sicily I can have, except other than living in Sicily.
Why?
The topography of Los Angeles and the weather is very similar to Sicily, where my mom and dad are from. And, I've been there, and I remember when I got off the plane in Catania, I felt like, I know I've never been to, I've been to Italy like 3 or 4 times, but I hadn't been to Italy yet. And when I got off to Sicily,
Yeah.
when I got off the plane, I was like, I feel like I've been here before. I really had that connection. Like I sort of knew which direction was which and where things were. And I know that was my DNA, connecting to, my parents' DNA. But I just know that this climate is ideal for me. I mean, maybe I might move more into the desert because I like it really warm.
Yeah.
I don't have any desire really to live back in New York, though I get that DNA feeling when I go to New York. I mean, when I'm in New York, it's like, I'm home.
Yeah,
I know I'm home. But that home is with me all the time,
Yeah.
even out here, no matter where I go. It's always with me. And so most of my New York attitude has like really, calmed down a lot in my life.
Yeah.
A hell of a lot.
Right.
And it was just good. I mean, if I need it, I can borrow from it when I'm in a scene, I'm acting.
So, I have a question for you.
Sure, go ahead.
How have you responded to, or what are you thinking about, or what are your thoughts about the Me Too movement? Being a man in Hollywood who's been around for decades and who knows a great deal of men, both on the executive level, as actors, as celebrities, as musicians. When you hear and read about these stories, I talk to a lot of women, Tony, all the time about this. Very rarely do I speak with men during this moment, and very rarely do I read about the male response. Now, it's out there for sure. People are writing about it and what have you, but I just thought if you were comfortable, and why not be, what's it been like for you to watch all of this come down? And
well, I mean, I guess at the very core of it all is like something that I've learned since I was first started dating, I guess. And even my dad, even though he was a truck driver and didn't graduate from high school, I mean, I learned a lot from my dad. My dad had a lot of he had really good values.
That's awesome.
And I know one thing's for sure, and it doesn't even matter if it's Me Too or Who Too or Ye Too. When a woman tells you no, it's no.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, okay. I mean, I used to flirt a lot, but I would say things.
Used to.
Okay. I mean, I flirt, but the point is, if I asked a woman out for a date, and whether it's somebody I met professionally or somebody I met somewhere else, and if they said no, I'd ask again. But if they say no again, then it's like, okay, that's it.
Yeah, they only get two
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I'm not gonna annoy anybody.
Yeah.
And it's like, life's too short to like, you know what I mean?
Well, I do, and I know that
become
about you.
like an emotional brute.
Well, I know that about you, and I know that you're not that. I just wondered, what does, particularly people in the industry where this is becoming an explosive pattern of men in positions of power taking advantage of women who, for whatever reason, did not have a way to cope with it?
Well, now they have. I mean, now because of the Me Too movement, now there's a lot more opportunities for, an ogre of a guy to be sussed out.
Yep.
And when in the past, I mean, that wouldn't happen.
No, not at all.
I mean, I don't know if the same thing. I mean, I don't know if you can get rid of it forever. I don't know if anything is like permanently dissolved.
Yeah.
But you can at least make the guy think twice. Think 3 or 4 times before he might make a move on some woman.
What do you think that is, though, inside of men, Tony? What do you think? That's extreme abuse of power. So what do you think drives men into that corner? It feels to me like
it's not
dark place.
It's not it's not something that I have inside of me, so I don't understand, when guys do that. I mean, I don't think. Well, one time I was with some guys and they were catcalling at some women on the street, and I just like sort of walked away. I think that's disgusting. It's not who I am. And I don't overly stare at women on the street like a lot of men do. And again, I don't know if it's because subconsciously, as I was hanging out with my dad when I was younger, I modeled him. I mean, he never, my dad would, if he saw a beautiful woman like on the screen or something, because he would take me to the movies with him sometime, he'd say, wow, she's a looker, stuff like that. That'd be about it. But my dad was not in any way, shape, or form, lascivious or lewd about it. It just wasn't his.
You attribute a great deal of this to your role model.
Well, my mom and dad are my heroes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like they say, everything you learned about life, you learned in kindergarten.
Yeah.
Well, everything I learned almost everything I learned in my life, I learned from my parents.
Right.
Though, we were at odds about a lot of other stuff.
Sure.
Traditional things and,
Totally.
and stuff like that. But in terms of,
Yeah.
learning how to deal with people. See, I have this thing, that I say all the time. It's like, I'm very respectful of people, okay? And I don't demand respect in return. I just try to give out to people what I would like to get in return. And sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't.
Yeah.
But I understand how tough it is for women in this business.
Yeah.
I mean, Christ almighty, look, one of my favorite actors, not one of my top 10 favorite actors, but you look at like Sean Connery, okay? I've enjoyed him my whole life. And then you see him in certain movies and he's playing the love interest, and the guy could be the grandfather of the women that he's playing the love interest
That's
to.
right.
So the women actresses in this town, they have such a small window, of where they can be like sort of the leading lady kind of thing, or the ingenue, let's say. And then it goes away real quickly. Why? It's the way the business is set up. It's the way life is set up. Who
Well,
knows?
it used to.
What?
It used to.
Yeah,
I would say leading ladies are fighting back with all they have right now.
Well,
And
it is. That's the
changing.
point I was going to make. It is
Yeah.
changing, and so what used to be is sort of like changing a lot. Well, I don't know if it's changing quick enough, but it is changing.
It's a hard change, though. You're right.
Yeah.
It really is like pulling teeth, and it's like extracting from the culture a really diminishing belief system that isn't just ruling our business.
I don't
our
care.
Politics.
I don't care how old Sophie Loren is now. I think she's 80 something. She's still like, I find her to be so incredibly wonderful to look at, and as a woman, I think, oh my God.
Oh, I think women just get so beautiful as they.
So I never, it's like, well, my whole big thing is, it always has been, is it doesn't really matter how a woman looks to me. It's how smart they are. I'm looking for somebody that I can
Talk to.
learn from.
Yeah.
Have
Yeah.
a conversation with and learn things from.
Yeah.
It's not just so much a question of eye candy and stuff like that. But,
When we don't have too much more time. We could go we could fill like 10 hours,
All right.
but we'll do more later. But on this one, we can't make them too long because otherwise people have to go to work. They're already there listening to a podcast. But I wanted to sort of segue just for a second into what something you just said really was. You're looking for a smart woman. She has to be smart for you to engage. And one thing that I've learned about you is that you have an incredible sense of history. Your memory is amazing, and you've thought deeply about how history has created the reality, for example, that we're living through now. And I wonder did you always know that you needed that kind of woman in a partner? I know you have one right now.
Yeah.
It does reflect that, but
I
did
think
you
so.
always know that?
I think so.
Okay.
From when I was a small boy, I don't know if I ever told you this one time. School I found was so incredibly boring to me. It just really was. My eyes used to glaze over my head. Except when I had a teacher who had the same passion about acting, about
Yeah.
teaching as we have about acting, as you and I have about acting. But other than that, it was just always seemed so. And I used to do things like I'd go home and I would read the Encyclopedia Britannica. I got up to the letter E one time. When I read it, and I thought to myself, it's impossible for me to remember everything all these letters, all these pages, and all the pages I have to go. But I don't know if it's like some subconscious photo memory or whatever, but you'd be amazed. Sometimes I'll be in the middle of a conversation, somebody will say something, and whatever it is, it starts with the letter D. And I'll think, oh, and they go, how did you know that? And I go, I don't know.
I've been in those conversations with you where someone mentions something, you start giving us all the history of this. And like, why do you know that, Tony? But you do.
You know what would be nice, as a button to everything we're talking about? It'd be really nice if the Me Too movement would become something that's a part of the history of Hollywood instead of something like people are fighting now. So.
Oh, it's going to be someday history.
Yeah.
It certainly is historical, and there will never be a talk about Hollywood again.
Yeah, women have it
That
tough.
doesn't
I'll say one thing for sure. Women have it tough. They really do.
Yeah, but it's a great time. Think about the difference right now in Hollywood even from 5 years ago there is a spoken truth that's happening, and that is huge.
I don't know.
It's gigantic.
Maybe it's just me, but most of the women that I've talked to, especially in the business,
Yeah.
I don't know if it's because the movement has helped or whatever, but they have a kind of like toughness now.
Yep.
Where they're saying, okay, bring it on.
Yep.
Bring it on. And I'm going to maneuver through whatever I need to maneuver through.
That's right.
And I find that always sort of like, that's inspiring.
Oh, that's great.
It's inspiring.
Well, let me stop here, because I love the fact that Tony Denison just said that women in Hollywood who have a toughness and are speaking truth to power is inspiring to him.
Yes, it
It's
is.
one of the reasons why we love Tony Denison. Tony, I really could talk to you for hours.
Me too. I could talk to you all day long.
We'll finish this one at the moment. If there's anything you want to say to the fans who you haven't spoken to maybe in a while, or anything you want to say at all, please feel free as you sign out.
Well, I've said before in different media, social media things, I think our fans on Major Crimes and The Closer before are just so, their enthusiasm and, it's just, it's inspiring. It's awe-inspiring. I can't get over how there's still these large numbers of fans that are trying to get us, in these different competitions. And I just never cease to be marvel at it. I'm like,
I agree.
I don't like to say this because it's an often used expression, but God bless us.
Yeah.
Really, God bless and God bless them. They just so, it's so great. They're just so great. And I know you have your fan club division of the Major Crimes fan club. Like I have the Flynn girls.
Yeah.
Which I don't know what I would do without.
Yeah, they're lovely. The Flynn girls, I follow them too.
And they're all
so
ages.
I see what
They're all
they
ages
do,
too.
You
They're
know
all
what I
ages.
mean? And it always tickles me.
I had a girl come up to me one time at a restaurant in Santa Monica. I was there for some business meeting, and her and her friends were just giggling and, oh my God, I can't believe I'm meeting you. And I'm like, oh, hello. And they said, could we get your autograph? And I thought they wanted my autograph for their mothers. And they go, no, it's for us. And I said, how old are you? They were like freshmen at UCLA. And they were like 20, 21 or something like that. I said, what? They said, oh my God, we love you. We love Major Crimes.
Great.
Oh, when are you and Sharon getting married and stuff? And I was like, wow, so it was great, because everybody says, oh no, your show skews so much older. No, not really.
That was we'll talk, maybe someday.
Meanwhile, the older ones are the ones with the money. So yeah, let's have more older people watching the show because they're the ones buying all the stuff in the stores.
Yeah, one of these days we'll do a whole podcast on how Major Crimes broke apart, because it would be an interesting thing to examine with a little space.
Sure.
And our fans have examined it and re-examined it and examined it again, but not too many of the inside people have talked a lot about the ending of Major Crimes, and it was a very interesting.
Yeah.
We'll deal with it another time, but
sure, I'd like to do that.
I do think that two of the things you're talking about here are sort of cracking breaking the ceiling, both the gender ceiling, sexism and ageism. And you're experiencing it in both watching women and as an actor who's older, who has fans who are 20. It is no longer what it was. So there's a great deal of freedom right now. Even though you got to fight with everything.
People
but
like,
it's possible.
there's so many different, Jessica Lange, I'll watch her.
Yeah.
I'll watch her do whatever she wants to do. Glenn Close, obviously Meryl Streep.
Yeah.
Gene Smart, who I know you worked with. I love Gene Smart. I don't know why there's not more of Gene Smart.
Do you know what happened
movies
with
and
Gene
television.
Smart and I?
What?
Recently, Gene and I did High Society, as you know.
Yes.
And so I was on my way to Nashville to a convention, and I came into the airport, and I went into the airlines, and I was going to the first class lounge because they fly you first class. Yay. And there was a woman up the front of the very long line looking through her purse with things flying, going, I'm so sorry. I know I have it. It's right here. I've got my credit card. And I said, oh my God, that's Jean, because I know her voice.
Right.
So I was like, Jean. She's like, Mary. Everybody's like, oh my God, it's Jean and Mary. We get on the plane. I said, I'll see you on the plane. My seat was next to hers.
Really?
And we flew to Nashville together. and caught up. And it was a really beautiful thing. It was just beautiful.
Well, when you ever talk to her again, tell her I am a giant fan of hers.
I will tell her.
I really mean that.
I will
really
tell
mean
her.
that.
Maybe she'll listen to this. I'll send it to
Okay.
her. Anyway, Tony, oh my gosh. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you. It's a little sad. Wish we were still working together.
Yeah, I know, me too.
Maybe we will on another project.
Well, yeah. Why not? You find it.
Okay.
Anyway, thank you. It's a delight to talk to you.
Thank you.
The fans have been begging for this one, right? So we're really glad to get it done, and we'll do it again. So, everybody, that concludes our 5th episode of Lady Bam Podcast with the great Tony Denison. I want to say thank you all for listening. I want to say thank you to our producer, Mina Sharp, to Chris Jory. And I also wanted to let you know that our dear producer, Chelsea Acapelli, is actually taking a break right now, and she is getting her nursing degree. So we'll keep you posted on Chelsea, and we wish her all the best. And as always, we wish all women who are following their dreams and pushing the envelope and kicking that door open, please keep doing it. So till episode number 6, oh, I have to laugh too, I forgot. Okay, there it is. Bye.